fanstalkpodcast.com. From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 49 of Fans Talk TNA. My name is Garvin, and with us is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
Howdy, Garvin.
All right, and tonight we're going to recap and react to TNA Bound for Glory 2015. It just happened over the weekend. So, we built it up. We previewed it on our first show back in about 3 weeks. So, lucky you, 2 episodes of Fans Talk TNA in a matter of a week. So, there you have it. As we've said just about every episode, if you enjoy the series and you want to see it continue, then step up and join the Squared Circle of Trust. For as little as $1 a month, you're going to help us cover the cost of recording, hosting, and distributing our episodes. And you'll also keep us motivated to keep going and keep coming back, even if TNA doesn't. You can head on over to fanstalktna.com right now, click the big green button, and subscribe today. Let your voice be heard and your support be heard. All right, Nick. TNA Bound for Glory. I think we both went in not exactly sure what to expect. You know, on paper, you had some good matches, but without that real build as far as your normal pay-per-view build, you know, without that, it did seem kind of odd. So, I know I felt that way going into it. Overall, your thoughts, were you entertained by Bound for Glory?
Absolutely. It's one of the best pay-per-views I've seen this year, of any company. And really, I can't say there was a bad match on this card. Even the one that I thought would turn out to be the worst of the bunch, the Bound for Gold Gauntlet match. That was still very solid. I still think it was the least quality match in comparison to the others, but I mean, they set a really high bar with this one.
I don't know if I would say this is the best pay-per-view or one of the best pay-per-views of the year, you know, compared to WWE, compared to, I mean, NXT in some capacity with their takeover events. I'm with you though, as far as the match quality, you know, I thought was very good up and down the card. You know, the X Division match I thought was very, very good. It was a good way to kick off the event. The tag team match was just as solid as any Wolves match has been thus far. Rude versus Lashley, again, a solid matchup. And, you know, I think overall I was pretty satisfied with the match itself, as far as the main event goes. EC3 versus Drew versus Matt Hardy. I thought quality-wise of the wrestling up until the end, I think I was okay with. And even the end, it was generally acceptable. You know, I just didn't want Hardy to win.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, when I say this is one of the best I've seen this year, I'm just talking about the event itself. The stories that led up to this, what little some of them had, yeah, obviously there have been many better stories told elsewhere. It's just, you know, the event itself. It was very, very solid. But with Matt Hardy winning, I absolutely see the reason behind it. You know, it's in quote-unquote Charlotte, North Carolina, and they're casting him as a hometown hero. So I get it. And, you know, he has had this long-term campaign against EC3, Matt for champ. And Galloway, you know, there hasn't really been a program built with him, like you were saying for the preview. So, I get the reason behind it. It's just, I don't know who really wanted to see Matt as champ.
Okay. Well, let's just run down the card. I think we could pretty much talk about all of these matches, but we'll start off with the opener. Tigre Uno defended the X Division Championship in an Ultimate X match versus Andrew Everett, DJZ, and Manic. Thoughts on this match?
Phenomenal way to open things up. The usual X Division excitement. They brought that and then some. Andrew Everett didn't miss a beat here. He stepped in and fit in very well. That springboard 450, that was excellent. That bump he took at the end of the match, falling just falling the way he did. That impressed me. I was already high on the guy before, but now he's sold me even more as a fan of his. I guess I'm okay with Tigre Uno retaining. It's just that I don't see what they're gonna do with him that would make this reign any better. And, he hasn't had that great of a reign before now, so it just seems like status quo. And
right.
Yeah, that worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I think overall, I did like Andrew Everett. I thought it was a good debut for him. DJZ and Manic both having very similar hairstyles as far as color goes was very confusing. So much so that the announcers kept mixing them up. But yeah, I thought overall it was a good match. I don't necessarily like Tigre Uno with the win, but at this point, Manic, they really haven't done enough with him to, I don't know, make it worthwhile, I guess, for them. I mean, Manic is who we went with. It would have been cool, but at the same time, like, you look at the story and how the stories have been told, no one surpasses Tigre Uno as far as, that side of things, just because we really haven't seen them in this type of competition, in a long time. Andrew Everett, especially, like, we haven't seen him at all. So yeah, I think Tigre Uno winning was probably the only move that really made sense. As long as I don't know, status quo, I think was a good way to explain it. So
one moment that I feel deserves mention is when Manic and DJZ were both going for the belt, and they're kicking at each other on the cables. Manic gets knocked down. Manic tumbles to his feet and he points at DJZ's shoes and he yells, "What are those?" for yanking DJZ down. I didn't catch it the first time around. When I went back and rewatched it clicked with what he said, and just given Manic's obsession seems like the wrong word, but he's got a sizable shoe collection, so I don't know. That just tickled my fancy.
I did not catch that, but that is pretty funny. So yes, Tigre Uno does retain. In the process, though, unfortunately, he did suffer a separated shoulder. No kind of announcement as far as if he's going to have to take time off. It would be really unfortunate if he won that match only to have to take time off. But yeah, normally separated shoulders, that takes people out for, I think 4 to 6 weeks is generally an idea, but the way TNA handles their tapings, maybe it's okay. Maybe you can get away from it.
Yeah, they did okay in that regard when Eddie Edwards suffered his injury, broke his heel, I think it was. So yeah, it seems like they barely missed a step with that, the way they taped it.
Yeah. All right, next up we had the Bound for Gold Gauntlet match. Abyss, Aiden O'Shea, Chris Melendez, Eli Drake, Jesse Goddards, Mahabali Shera, Mr. Anderson, Robbie E. Tyrus. Those are the guys that we knew were going to be a part of it. We also saw Tommy Dreamer, Pope, and Al Snow get involved. Tyrus with the win. Now, I know neither of us picked Tyrus, but after that decision was made and seeing how he was booked in this match, I'm excited about this. Tyrus looking dominant, looking like he's a guy that should be feared. And especially the after match interview that he did, alongside EC3, I think by far makes this the best decision that they could have made. Do you agree?
I think so, yeah. Especially since it's Matt that's champ now. It would have been interesting to see Tyrus go up against EC3, but this works out perfectly. EC3 can sick Tyrus on Hardy for all intents and purposes and have him do his dirty work for him. But in the meantime, yeah, Tyrus is booked to be a badass. Finally. Anybody that knows what he did beforehand knows he's a badass. Like, he was a bodyguard for Snoop Dogg, for crying out loud. So, he's a tough guy. So, yeah, it's just nice to see more character development, him finally getting pushed as a legitimate threat in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally interested in the breakup style, or I'm sorry, the breakup side of things. If in fact that's the direction they go, where EC3 and Tyrus feud. But I just love the idea that they're going to finally use Tyrus for what he's good at, which is dominating and winning matches. So yeah, I'm glad we're finally going in this direction. And he's not just losing random matches against Rockstar Spud or, in some kind of joke role or insignificant role. So, yeah, I think this is great move overall. Though Robbie E would have been nice.
Orbis. I think it was kind of telling that, Tyrus did declare his candidacy, I guess, for the World Heavyweight title, even though EC3 was holding it. But it kind of got overshadowed by the crowd reaction. But he did say afterward, "I still got your back." So I don't think they want them to break up yet.
Right.
Which is good.
All right. Tag team championships are on the line. The Wolves took on Brian Myers and Trevor Lee. Are you surprised that the Wolves retained, knowing that you picked Trevor Lee and Brian Myers?
I'm not really surprised. I think I was swayed more by wishful thinking than anything else. Just because, the Wolves are already 5-time tag team champions and they need competition. And I thought this will be a viable way to make that happen. But I don't know. TNA could still be planning to keep them around for a little while. But, now that they've exhausted their rematch and they're still considered to be GFW guys to some extent, I don't know what avenue they could take unless they just wanted to discard that troublesome little factoid and ignore it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that they would. I mean, it was still talked about, in commentary that they were from GFW, but at the same time, like, if you remove them, where do you go next with the tag team division? I mean, you still do not have any credible opponents for them, the Wolves being. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, you almost require them to stay. But even if they did, you need more tag teams in this division to make the Wolves enjoyable. Because at this point, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm tired of them, but I'm just tired of them having the same matches over and over again.
Yeah, it makes me think that TNA is going to go one of two routes. Either they do another Joker's Wild tournament, or they start handling the tag team division like they've done with the X division from time to time and start bringing in outside teams as exhibition matches, or maybe you throw in a couple of random indie tag teams before you bring in your new signing or something.
Yeah, I mean, there are possible partnerships that you could see. Mahabali Shera and Manic maybe partnering up. Mr. Anderson, Chris Melendez. Even Tyrus and EC3 could fit in some one-off matches,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we'll actually see something develop from these house shows, because you mentioned EC3 and Tyrus. They're fighting the Wolves for... Actually, I don't remember if it is for gold, but they are fighting them at a house show.
Yeah. So, all right. King of the Mountain Championship, Bobby Roode versus Lashley. We were both expecting this to be one of the matches of the night as far as just overall ability, wrestling match. These two guys are fantastic all around. Did this live up to your expectations?
Absolutely. I thought it was going to be close, and boy, was it. And it seems like this was the one that the crowd was most invested in, to be honest. Especially when they started trading finishers and submissions back and forth. That was a really intense match, and yeah, props to both those guys. They brought it.
Yeah, it lived up to what I thought it would. I still am disappointed that they couldn't build it better. It did feel like a filler match, but for a filler match, it did well. So, but yeah, I'm very pleased. I'm pleased that Bobby Roode retained. That is a good move considering the story that they were sort of vaguely building inconsistently, as with him just being, unstoppable and dominant. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see who goes next up against him. Do they put an EY there? Do they move someone else up like an Abyss, like Eli Drake, Jesse Goddard's even? So yeah, I think there's plenty of guys that they can put there. Just hopefully they do it. But that's a lot of stuff that you need to fill in every week. And it's kind of hard to determine what title race should be on TV the most. I mean, obviously it's your World Heavyweight Championship, but with the X division not getting a whole lot of limelight, and the King of the Mountain Championship not really getting a whole lot of limelight either. It's going to be curious. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what direction TNA goes with, as far as, which one of those two title races gets the most TV time. Gail Kim defended the TNA Knockouts Championship against Awesome Kong. And I think this is where I started to kind of lose it. I was definitely tired. I had been up since, maybe 7:00 in the morning to, tailgate for the Browns game. So, at this point, I was just so tired, but I just thought that the match didn't go as long as I was expecting. They had like this strange outside interference with Gail Kim's husband that didn't necessarily seem to lead to anything, specific. Like, he didn't see so basically he stopped Awesome Kong from using a chair on Gail Kim. But then while he's fighting with, it was Earl, right? Earl Hebner?
Yes.
Okay. So as he's fighting with Hebner, Awesome Kong sets up more chairs on the ground and slams Gail Kim against it. It's just that we saw it, but Hebner obviously didn't see it and the husband didn't see it. So it was just strange. It was strangely timed, strangely placed. And at the end of the day, it didn't seem to really have any effect on the end of the match. So I was disappointed with this match.
Yeah, it was easily the most weirdly booked match of the card, depending on whether or not you place a lot of emphasis on Shira's dance spot in the middle of the gauntlet match. I still enjoyed the match, but yeah, you didn't need Robert Irvine interfering at all, and ultimately, you didn't need those chairs. You didn't need any of that, those spots. I think it would have been just a much better option to have a pure wrestling match and just let those two go at it without any outside factors, without bringing in chairs, without bringing in family, without any of that. You don't need it. It's Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong.
And it was just really strange because, like, we really hadn't seen Awesome Kong a whole lot, but as of late, she's been friendly with Gail Kim. She's been friendly with, like, the faces of the company. So to have her pretty much go out to try and hurt Gail Kim, it just seemed out of place, like out of character based on what we knew of her as of late.
I don't know if I necessarily go that far. Yeah, she's been aligned with the faces, but considering who she was facing with them, either the Dollhouse or Lady Tapa. The Dollhouse cost her a championship match. They had been harassing her before or after that. Aligning with Gail Kim or even Brooke made sense. But even though, she was on the side of the Angels there were never any bones about it. Awesome Kong is still a monster. Any reason she's teaming up with somebody is either respect or the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, I'm with you. The chairs weren't necessary, given how the match ended. But I don't think it was weird for her to break them out in the first place.
Alright, I'll give you that. This led us to the match that I think I was least looking forward to as far as next day. And that's Kurt Angle versus EY. I could be wrong, but I think I said during the pre-show that I thought that this was going to be the match of the night. So I was excited for it, but at the same time, I was not excited because this was going to be Kurt Angle's final match in TNA. He's not re-signing with them. He's taking a hiatus. We all know that. Never say never. I mean, he may return to TNA in a year or two. We'll see, but So it was a sad moment to have what we knew was going to happen afterwards. At the same time, like, this match was also really weird. Like, it wasn't a normal Kurt Angle match. They played up the injury a lot. A move that should have ended the match like right from the get-go, was that pile driver. And that was just the beginning of the whole injury angle. So, I don't know. What was your thoughts in this match? Cause I really wasn't a fan of how they did it.
I'm with you about how I was looking at this match going into it. Like, Angle versus EY. It's gonna be a great wrestling match. But, like you said, it's Angle's last match. It was very bittersweet. I think there was a lot of great storytelling going on in this match. Just the way EY trashed everybody. You know, he beat up the doctor, he beat up the agent, he beat up the referee, he told the EMTs to, verbatim, get the fuck out of here. And just the way he hauled Angle back, and Angle's going the entire way, it's off, Eric, the match is off. And then the way he just targeted Angle's neck over and over and over and over and over again with feet, fists, chairs, anything. At least on EY's side, there's a lot of great heel work there. And you can't fault the quality of the match either. It was still fairly good. The no DQ match, I questioned that. Because it was Angle calling for it. And I just don't understand how that helped him. He was the one with the injury. Those kinds of matches always favor the heel, by definition. So, yeah, I'm with you. There were weird choices made, and some of the avenues taken during this match were equally as weird. But at the end of it all, I feel like we got a good story told, and, you know, it just reinforced the notion that, you know, they call Angle the Cyborg for a reason, and it's not just because Hulk Hogan went off script and went bananas with his nicknames. You know, the guy's got a neck that's bigger than both my arms put together, so, yeah, it just reinforces his larger than life status in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm not denying the fact that EY looked awesome. This really continued to build up EY as your major heel in the company. But this was Kurt Angle's last match. You know?
Yeah.
Like, this is the last time we're going to see him on TV for however long. And this was it. This was his goodbye.
I guess the biggest thing that we can take away from it is that maybe it was supposed to give EY the rub. Like, he didn't necessarily need it, but, you know, it's just that extra little bit of polish, that extra little bit of oomph. Like, EY put Angle through hell and back, just with his offense, the lengths that he was willing to go to. And it wasn't anything ridiculous, like Bully Ray versus Sting, you know, cutting up the ring and exposing the floorboards and things like that. It was just good, solid, old-fashioned heel work. Again, very Flair-esque, I think.
I don't know if I agree with you that this gave EY some kind of rub. I mean, the thing is that this doesn't make EY better in my mind. He lost. Just like he lost to Chris Melendez last week. I mean...
he lost to Kurt Angle. If you're gonna lose to anybody and still come out looking good, I mean, Angle can pull that off. Melendez is a whole other issue. But I can ignore the fact that he lost in a match against Kurt Angle.
I'm just saying right now, he's got wins over Chris Melendez, and that's pretty much it over the last 2 months or so. So to me, that doesn't make EY better. I mean, we knew what EY could do. I think EY's first match against Angle told a good story. But just the fact that, you know, EY does all of that damage to an already injured Kurt Angle and still loses. It just, I don't know. To me, that builds Kurt Angle as like this unstoppable guy again. And EY, you know, just can't win. So we'll agree to disagree, I guess. Okay. EC3 defended the TNA World Heavyweight Championship against Drew Galloway and Matt Hardy. How psyched are you, Matt Hardy's champion? I mean, I know you were kind of playing it down like, you know, you weren't totally interested, but I know you're interested in the Matt Hardy win, right?
Oh, yeehaw. It's not the end of the world. It's something that the Hardys can cross off their bucket lists. Both of them have been world champs now, and, you know, good for them. I wish it had gone in a different direction. If you have to take the belt off EC3, which I think Bound for Glory was a good place to do so, then put it on Drew Galloway. he's been doing some great work now, arguably the best of his career. And I think Drew can just do so much more with it than Matt Hardy can. Maybe if this was 5 years ago, or, I take that back, Matt Hardy was still kind of fucked up 5 years ago, but 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, like what he was doing in ROH, and he was in a little bit better physical shape, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have done this then, but this just feels like a cash-in somehow.
Last night, in the Squared Circle of Trust on the Slack community, it was you, Beanbags, and myself, and we were watching this together. And I think what was said, and I don't even remember who said it. It might have been even me, but I can't recall. But just the fact that, yes, we are all upset that Matt Hardy is your champion. I definitely wanted to see EC3 continue his reign. I would be okay if Drew had won as well, but at the same time, like, this isn't that bad if you consider the fact that he still has the win streak. At least he walked away with something, and I think that is a good piece to the puzzle that, makes this not a complete mistake. I'm with you. I don't want to see Matt Hardy. If this was Matt Hardy that, was the big heel in ROH, I think this would be interesting, but because this is nostalgia, Matt Hardy, it's kind of hard to get into. At the same time, this is his first, major title. So I'm okay with that. I mean, say what you will say about Matt Hardy, but to have him have the career that he has had, to then finally get a world title, I think it's okay. I think it's acceptable.
Yeah, and outside of strictly TNA, again, good for Matt. He's been on an upswing of late with his life. He's finally gotten himself straightened out. He came back from a near-death experience. He got married relatively recently, had a kid. Now he's world heavyweight champion. He's on top of the world, and that's great for him. And yeah, I think even strictly within TNA and storyline, maybe this could go in an interesting direction because, I've kind of forgot about when I started talking about it again, but, very early on when Tyrus got ejected, I can't swear to it, but I don't think Tyrus actually did anything to merit getting thrown out, but Matt was right on top of that. And, it didn't take much convincing for Jeff to throw him out. So it kind of makes me wonder if we are going to see a heel turn out of maybe both the Hardys. Maybe this is what they've been angling for from the start. I don't know. Could be wishful thinking, but I don't know. Maybe we can get something decent out of this.
That would be difficult. I mean, a double heel turn? As far as them both turning heel, it would be
at the very least, Matt, with maybe him convincing Jeff later. Like, maybe Jeff was just in a dupe in all this to begin with, but, kind of like how Karen Jarrett forced Jeff's hand. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
All right, so that was pretty much Bound for Glory. Nick, you said this was one of the best pay-per-views of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to fill my memory with such trivial nonsense that I really can't compare it to a whole lot. But, I thought the matches themselves were good. I didn't quite like just some of the booking decisions, but at the same time, it really suffered for me because of the lack of build on a lot of these matches. Like, really, I think you had the Wolves and the tag team championship match like that. That had some history going into it. Angle versus EY had some history going into it. And then obviously the main event, but everything else, it just seemed kind of thrown together.
Did you say Rude versus Lashley had history to it?
Well, but no, I didn't. They have
totally do. Yeah.
Okay, they have history, but they haven't been like actively feuding.
Yeah.
It was just an open challenge.
Yeah, just the spirit of pure competition. My proclamation may be overly based on the fact that Big John Gabbert got knocked on his ass to close out the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was definitely probably not planned, but it was hilarious.
Yes.
If we can find an animated GIF of that, I definitely
I've
will
got it.
post that. Oh, good. Yeah. All right. So once again, this episode of Fans Talk TNA has been brought to brought to you by our friends over at patreon.com/fans talk. Because of your support, we've begun to raise enough money to keep this series and the rest of the series over at Fans Talk funded. But we're not quite there yet. You can join the Square Circle of Trust today to give us the motivation to keep talking about Impact Wrestling each and every week. Nick, what was your favorite moment from Bound for Glory?
Outside of the aforementioned toppling of the head of creative, I think I gotta give it to Tyrus's push. You know, like I said earlier, he's finally being booked to be a badass, and that's been long overdue.
Agreed. That's gonna be my win as well. Fails. What was the worst moment from Bound for Glory?
Probably the Knockouts match. Again, just a lot of overcomplication there. It should have been much more simple than it was. Just an ongoing battle that's gone on since essentially the formation of the Knockouts division. And no, you had to get the famous husband involved. You had to bring in chairs that ultimately didn't mean anything. So, yeah, it was just, I think you made something just a little bit worse just by throwing too much shit in it. Which, weirdly, you would think a chef would understand, but no.
A quick shout out to Beanbags. He had a fail for this show. His worst moment, or at least the moment that he felt was the worst of the show, was the Shira dance that went on way too long. I could not figure out for the life of me why they were still playing his music after he hit the ring and started to compete.
Oh, come on. It's New Delhi, Jack.
It just kept going and going. And finally, like after a minute, maybe minute and a half, they finally had him do the Shira dance, which was just so dumb, so dumb. So, my fail though is going to go, to just politics and wrestling. You induct a guy like Earl Hebner into the Hall of Fame, and you cannot use any of the footage from a majority of his career. It's just really disappointing to see. And I mean, we saw something similar with Sting, but at the same time, like Sting had like a really active history with TNA. So, but yeah, so I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed that, all we got to see from the footage of Earl Hebner was from like the last 10 years. And that's not really what made Earl Hebner a favorite referee for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any final thoughts before we head out?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Fans Talk TNA is part of the Fans Talk podcast family and can be found at fanstalktna.com. The Fans Talk podcast family is a subsidiary of Tigar Creative LLC. This series, as well as the rest of the podcasts released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers. Subscribe today for as little as $1 a month to help us continue to move forward. For Nick, my name is Garvin. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to talking to you once again very soon. Later.